So today I'm going to tell you why the new federal carbon tax is actually worse than you think. And it's not because the price is going to be exorbitant and going to hit you in the pocketbook. It's because it's basically a sin tax that leaves you no alternatives. Now, a sin tax is a tax that we put on things that are sinful or harmful to society. These are traditionally things like gambling or alcohol, drugs, tobacco, might be pornography, sugar lately, things like driving your car into the city during rush hour, we put a fee or a levy on you, because we simply don't want you to do these things, even if we don't want to make them illegal per se. Now, what is the problem with these sin taxes? What is the big problem with a tax that is trying to affect your behavior? Well, the problem with those in general is that they're very difficult to predict because people often get a different level of benefit from the thing that we're talking about, right? If we're talking about a sugar tax, it's very difficult to predict how people are going to behave because if you're used to buying a can of pop, can of soda for about $1, well, at what point are you not going to buy that thing? Is it have to be $1.05, $1.10, $1.25, $1.50, $2? You know, at what point does the tax have to be so that you're not going to engage in the behavior that the government doesn't want you to behave in? And this is ignoring the fact that we may not even agree that the government should be even enforcing such a thing. And, you know, what are your rights about that? But again, that's a whole entirely different issue. But the question here is really the potential alternatives. Now, the tax is going to go up from about $30 to $170 per ton. And even though most people have no idea what a ton of carbon is or greenhouse gas emissions, what does that actually do? How do I produce that? What does the average Canadian produce? But the problem is that it's going to go up slowly to $170. And even though 2030 is a long time away, and there might be a very different world that we're going to live in 10 years, the problem is that in 2 years, the effect is going to be about 12 cents per liter on gasoline. Now, the government's stated goal, again, is to change your behavior and get you away from carbon emissions. So they probably would like you to drive an electric car. But what if you have no alternative? What if you cannot afford to buy an electric car, right? You don't have the money to switch cars. Maybe you're driving an old beater because that's what you can afford. You're simply going to pay 12 cents more and you have no alternative to move away from a gasoline-powered car. What if you drive a lot and an electric car simply does not work for you because of the amount of driving that you're going to have to do? Maybe you're a taxi cab driver or a limousine driver or some sort of delivery driver. The car is going to be running the entire day. You cannot drive an electric car because there's simply going to be no time to charge it in between your driving. Maybe you have a very large family and they don't really make electric cars that are affordable for a large family that seats 7 or 8 people. So the fact that the government is framing this as a sin tax is actually problematic because ultimately, yes, they're trying to get you to change your behavior, but they're not really leaving you with any alternatives. It's not like a tax on soda where you could theoretically just drink something else. You don't have to drink soda, even though, again, maybe it's your right to be able to drink soda. It could be argued. It's not like a tax on driving into the city where they want to take you to, they want to make you use public transportation so you can not take your car. And again, even then it might not work because it might not work for your family. But it's a sin tax on something that you may have no control over and you may have no alternative. And that's why it's actually worse than people think, because it's not just a penalty for people who want to pollute like the government says. They say that we're going to increase the price and make it more difficult for people to pollute. But that might not be the scenario. You might have absolutely no choice but to pollute, but to create carbon emissions, which is an entirely different issue as well, because pollution and carbon emissions may or may not be the same thing. So this is why the carbon tax is actually worse than you think. And it's not just because it's going to be a very high fee. It's worse than you think because it's going to leave a lot of people with potentially no alternative to change their behavior, no way around creating those carbon emissions, at the very least in the short term. Now, my good friend Candice Malcolm has a great series called Green Hypocrisy, and I would definitely recommend that you subscribe to our True North channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified when the latest episodes come out. It's a great series, and it will talk about these type of things. But I really just wanted to talk about the alternatives that it's going to leave you or not leave you with, because that is a serious problem, and that's the problem of any sin tax or tax that's aimed at changing your behavior. So, for True North, I am Sam Eskenasi. Thank you so much for watching. Have yourselves a great day.